Welcome to the Montana Wizard Podcast. And we are sponsored by Mountain Wizard, where you can get your Magical Montana merch at mountainwizardllc.com or find one of our social media platforms. Today we'll be talking about basketball tournaments, which from a more of a traditional stance, almost everyone in the state has participated in one way or another. Whether if you are playing, not playing, lost out, someone always tries to join in, whether it's through streaming platforms, the radio, even just going in person, just supporting a random team if you have a friend or a player that you played against that you're still supporting, stuff like that. But from the stance, I'll go more from my perspective, from being from Fairfield, where growing up, I'll start out with both my parents. They were both state championships winners when they were in high school, so that was their kind of legacy and just life in high school and stuff, is being around basketball. More when I was younger and stuff, before I was of age and started playing basketball, we'd always travel to basketball tournaments. I remember growing up and just being in the bleachers of the high school gymnasium and stuff like that at basketball tournaments. And even when I was young enough to not really understand the game, I just remember crawling underneath people's legs and stuff, just being a kid and having your own little area in the top corner of the stadium. I remember, I'm old enough to say I remember what the mural used to be, and frankly, it was a little bit fuzzy just because it was so extreme. Kind of had every single sport, not just Go Eagles on it. It had track, and I can't really remember who did it, mainly because I was towards the end of it. But it would have track, football, people running, other sports, basketball, tennis, I think, and really pale green color. But yeah, even hiding underneath the bleachers and crawling underneath those as a kid was always a fun thing. The more funner part was where you got to go to the tournaments, and I always grew up going to Shelby, and I think Cut Bank were more favorite areas to go play tournaments in, just because I believe they used to be A at one point, so they were built big to begin with, whereas most smaller schools and stuff were built to support what they were, what they started out as, until they rebuilt their gyms and stuff. Because we had a small gym, and frankly, it had I can't remember, 2 or 3 rows of wooden bleachers on one side of the court, and that was about it. And then you had the bench that the other team sat on, which was usually chairs and stuff, and then a scorer's table. But yeah, even towards junior high, when you start becoming the age of, hey, you have some friends and stuff, and yes, you're playing your own basketball at a different time and stuff, you kind of understood the sport, but this time you have people to mess around with, cheer for the team and stuff. And I remember we were from a very small Class B school where we probably should have been Class C a lot of the time, but our school was so competitive that we always got put in Class B just so we couldn't dominate the class below us. And it also made the Class B more entertaining at the time, when there wasn't really that many schools that were that competitive at the moment. But I remember going before in grade school, you go and you mess around with friends, you get to cheer on the team, you get to play or cheer on with the high schoolers and stuff, even if you were in the very far back of the pep area. I can't remember, I think I was in grade school when, I'll just put it this way. Fairfield is a reason for a huge majority of the rules in the pep rally rulebook for basketball tournaments, because one I remember specifically is, I think it was in the Billings Arena, or maybe it was in Bozeman, where when the team came out, since we were blue and white, the high schoolers decided to chuck baby powder into the air. Well, now that's kind of banned because it took a lot of cleaning up and it basically created a mist over the entire court. But it didn't really do too much after that. Didn't really spray on the court that I remember, and didn't really cause too much of a mess that I remember either. Maybe just a little glaze of dust, but that was about it. But yeah, I remember that. Uh, Jumping on bleachers and stuff. They created a rule for that because we always managed to have so many people come there that it would break the bleachers when you're jumping on them. But yeah, even when I was a kid, our school had a state record, I think, in most wins. So there was a lot of support for the women's basketball team back then when we had Jill Barta and stuff. So it was a very fun time to grow up in, where you get to see people actually celebrating, being fun, being peppy, being supportive, all the above. It was always a thing as a kid where your parents brought you to state tournaments and stuff just to experience and stuff, and I was always grateful that my parents were so into basketball that I got to experience all this stuff before actually going into basketball. But you go there and you get to swim in a pool, get to do some shopping, go to the gyms, have fun, watch people cheer on, all the above. Once I got into junior high, I got to experience more the actual pep life, because in Fairfield, every student participated in a sport, and a huge majority of the school population and stuff did basketball. So there wasn't too many people to do pep band and stuff like that. Well, they were also doing wrestling as well at the same time. So junior high got to be the pep band for our high school and stuff, just because there was such a lack of students being able to go multiple directions. You get stretched pretty thin when every student does every sport. So I remember a few things from that as well, down to just having fun and stuff, going to water parks, being peppy, playing amazing songs like Paint It Black is one thing I remember deep in my memory and stuff, just listening to music. It was always a kind of one of those memorabilia things at this point, where if you hear a pep band playing it, it just sounds amazing. Even rotating and stuff, like you get to go from Billings to Butte to Bozeman to Great Falls to Missoula. Great Falls was always the kind of the not so fun one, because you didn't get to stay in a hotel, you didn't get to eat out that much. Sometimes you got to eat out, but for the most part, you just went there and went home, and that was about it. And I have a feeling a lot of people who live in the other areas and stuff felt the same way, where they can just drive home rather than they get the tournament experience of staying the night in the hotel, having fun with your friends, having fun with your teammates, etc. When I got into high school, I never got to go all the way to state a lot of the times, just because I was in the midst of transferring coaches. When I was a freshman, the head coach stepped down, and we got a new coach, and then 2 years into it, that coach stepped down, and then we had another coach step in. I remember, I think my senior year and stuff, we had a three-point contest and stuff like that, and my first coach I had, my sophomore freshman, put me as a post because I grew up to like 6 foot by the 5th grade. So people thought I was going to grow even taller in high school and be like 7 feet tall or something like that. But I never did. And the one reason why I mentioned the 3-point contest is I remember shooting 3 points and stuff, and I actually outshot everyone. And I always like to say this because we had a really good basketball player below us. His name was like Keely Bake and stuff. And I remember I beat out everyone. And our coach made all the posts sit on the sideline while we watch all the guards and people who are normally 3-point shooters run suicides or lines or however you want to call it and stuff like that. And his scolding was, "You're not in trouble. Everyone else is for being outshined by a post in shooting," where posts aren't really known for being shooters. But it was always a fun memory in my head. a lot of times we always lost out to Rocky Boy on a last minute shot, which was always painful and stuff, but it's one of those things where it doesn't. Well, let me just rephrase that. It's changed so much on what teams and stuff are even in it. Even talking with my parents on, oh yeah, Fairfield doesn't play a lot of their normal teams now. There's some like Chinook and Wolf Point, and I can't remember what the other one was, but there's, like I said, we never played them and stuff, and a lot. I know Chinook was Class C at the time, but yeah, even just going to state, listening to state tournaments over the radio this last weekend and stuff is just entertaining, and it's just more memorabilia at that point. It's fun even if you're not the team going and stuff like that, just listening and hearing the crowd, hearing the roars, hearing the fans, all the above. It's always been something part of, or that part of the state, or that has been part of the state that everyone who's from the state has enjoyed quite a bit and supported for a long time. Every now and then there's that one team and stuff that everyone seems to hate in your conference and stuff, and it's besides the rival part. It's more of the, hey, we had all these big, huge people that we've kind of paid off, but we're not supposed to pay off, play for us. Because I remember, I think the Class B one was Loyola. They would always recruit people through the church and stuff, and a lot of people have called them out and stuff, and they actually got in trouble one year for it, but apparently they had like a pope or a cardinal or someone write them off so they couldn't get in trouble for it, which always seemed kind of a little bit unfair to everyone, and that's more why they are probably the one of the more hated teams in Class B. I know my wife, talking with her about the AA stuff, they always said that Bozeman was the most hated team because they had enough people to be in multiple schools and stuff for AA and stuff. So they had a pick of the crop for a lot of years and stuff. And yeah, they have a lot of people who move there just to get the shining spot in a lot of school sports and stuff. I know for a while, I think Malta got in trouble for it as well. And it was to get people to recruit for their kids or something to be really shine out and stuff and get a spot on team and stuff. And it was a lot. They had some kind of debacle with like the University of Montana where they did a lot of weird, sketchy kind of recruiting and putting people on top. And yeah, it all went down a rabbit hole. If you're from here, you would know about it. But yeah, for the most part, sports was just fun, regardless if you were a player, a pep band person, player, supporter, and just anyone in general that just enjoys listening to the sport. It's sometimes fun because even I listen to the Fairfield Challenge game and stuff, and that was like the most stressful game to listen to this year because it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and no one was being on top of anyone at that point. But yeah, but for the most part, supporting any team and stuff is just interesting to listen, regardless. And I myself, I'll be supportive of any team and stuff regardless of where I am. Like right now, I'm in Columbus, and we've gone to see a couple of their games and stuff, and it was kind of sad to see that they lost out before they even got to state, which was kind of sad. But hopefully they'll do good next year, and it'll be, and depending on where and if we are living here, we'll still support them and stuff. But for now, don't forget to buy some merchandise from the Mountain Wizard, our sponsor. And if you need custom stuff, they will gladly work with you on that stuff. Regardless if it's a event, bridal party, party in general, family vacation. If you want your names on t-shirts and all match so you don't get lost, it's always a fun way to customize your own merch. Even buying Montana merch, and it's not just magical merch, it's Montana themed merch as well. One of the favorites is like the Buck in Montana shirt, which it looks crisp, it looks clean, and it fits the whole atmosphere of Montana. So thanks for listening. I'll hear from you next time.